Hey up and welcome to the Temple of Blair. Everything's been quiet recently on the podcast front as I'm filming the fucking documentary. Shit's going off, it's all a good laugh. This particular episode is a conversation with Amy Sciarretto and Jamie Roberts. This is pretty much a PR support group where we all exchange war stories. Well, I don't any fucking PR stories. Anyway, let's jump into it. 1, 2, fuck shit up. The way that the world has sort of come now into my world, into the Roadrunner world, is that I'm pretty happy with, like, in terms of research, because Amy, last time we spoke, we had quite more of a clinical sort of academic conversation about Roadrunner as a role and how it came to be. I feel like I'm coming to the end of that line of inquiry, and I'm now like, guys, just hold my hand and talk me through some fucking filth. Let's get all the fun stories and all that stuff like out in the open where we can. Obviously, as you know, Amy, I edit this stuff down, so if there's anything off the record, you just got to wink and nod, and I'll make sure it doesn't reach the old interwebs.
I know you were really, like I said last time, I mean, yeah, no, it was good. I mean, it was a good conversation, obviously, but it was more focused on how the business was run and how each person that you talked to about how what their role was in the company and the business of selling records and breaking bands. Yeah,
I mean, the whole idea is that we look at this holistic picture of what Roadrunner did, and we have to sort of understand that it wasn't an accident. That's kind of the meat of it for me academically, and then we can go on to then we can embellish that and make it pretty with all the rock and roll stuff.
Plenty of that.
Oh God, yeah, God. But I think I'd be doing Jamie a disservice if we didn't take some of the biographical angles.
Well, and also Amy and I didn't overlap. We tried. I tried to hire her 100 times, but when I left shortly after you came, right? When did you start?
You left right before I started, and then when you came back, I was there. I was already installed there.
Right. Yeah, I was there twice. I was there from 1997. I know it was the summer because I was horrified by how many people were on Ozfest that year. I think it was like 5 bands. I think it was like Type O, Machine Head, Cold Chamber, Vision of Disorder, and God, I don't remember who the 5th one was. But I got there, summer 1997, and I quit in 2001. I was at Universal for a couple of years.
Right.
Universal merged with Motown, so then I went back the day after I got let go from Universal because of the merger.
Right, okay. And then when did you...
And I was there 2003 to 2006.
Got it. Right, okay. So how did you get your foot in the door in the first place?
I was working at a label called The Enclave. It was run by Tom Zutaut, the guy who discovered Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Awesome.
And he had like a little boutique label that was half funded by EMI and half funded by Virgin.
Right, okay.
And we spent so much money that it was like obscene. We had our company retreat in London when our band Fluffy played with the Sex Pistols.
Right.
So we were going out of business pretty quick. And, Then I heard about the Roadrunner job.
Right.
And I came in to meet Jonas, and he was like, oh, meet Case. And Case said to me, do you like metal? And I said, not really. And he's like, good. He's like, we'll be doing things other than metal also. So, that's good. And they said, can you get stuff in Rolling Stone? And I said, sure, why not? I didn't know I could, but I thought I could.
The timing is all right as well, because that particular year is when they do like all the crazy expansion stuff and they start trying to bring in some pop and a little bit of rap and a bit of this and a bit of that. It's also the time when Case sends out the Roadrunner Crossroads email, which is basically as a big call to action that Case goes, look, it's not 1993 anymore. We need to do something. We need to shape things up. We need to get some more licensed product in. We need to do all this stuff. And then obviously immediately afterwards, we have fucking Slipknot and Nickelback, and we entered this AAA period, which we're all fond of, and some of us lived through.
Yep.
So let's kick off then, Jim. Did you have a? In fact, actually, I did some homework where I could. What's your link with Absolute Vodka, specifically on October 24th, 1998?
I don't know.
Absolute Vodka net site taps into DJ culture, and apparently there was some kind of launch party.
Oh, that might have been one of the ESP Sun artists. Because we had a dance label called the ESP Sun, and that was the kind of stuff I actually liked.
But is this like a Roadrunner imprint?
Yeah, it was a Roadrunner imprint.
Yeah, I love this shit. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Let me.
When I got there, the only imprint was ESP Sun, and John Trepp ran it.
I've heard that name before, but I didn't have the name of that side. I know there was one in the UK, a dance label called Lafayette.
I didn't know that. But
yeah.
ESP Sun was the dance label, and he had like a couple of DJs.
DJ Spooky.
Yeah, a DJ Hardware at one point. Bad Boy Bill at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the dance label at the time.
At the site's launch party for the media, October 5th at New York's Irving Plaza, Gibbons and Calero joined DJ Spooky, author Simon Reynolds, SonicNet Senior VP Goldberg, and Jamie Roberts of Roadrunner Records publicity on a panel to discuss DJ culture and the role of new media, moderated by Blueboard online news editor Julie Charaska. There we go.
Oh, Julie Charaska. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Julie was an old friend. I don't think I knew at all what I was talking about, but I was on a panel. That kind of happens from time to time. I met Julie when I was at the Enclave working Belle and Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, she was very like hipster writer, and I thought she was too cool for me to be friends with.
Going from Belle and Sebastian to Coal Chamber, that's quite a shift.
I know. It was my transition was them wanting me at the Enclave to be the tour manager for Belle and Sebastian, to working to my first Roadrunner band I met being Machine Head.
That's a good one to start with, though.
Yeah, I was on their bus and I met Johnny Kelly that day too. But
Big day.
Johnny was, I get on the bus and nobody knows me, of course. So I'm like going around going, "Hi, I'm your new publicist." Like, and Johnny goes, "Roadrunner?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I feel sorry for you."
That's very typo though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And to this day, I'm still very close with Johnny. So,
when was the last time you guys saw each other then?
Oh, maybe his daughter, Sweet 16, in person. That was the last time we saw each other. Johnny, God, that was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
I mean, you two, but...
Oh, me and Amy. Amy, when did we see each other? I think
was it a show? I know, it's been a minute. We've talked a lot.
Yeah, we talk all the time.
Whenever something, I can't figure something out myself, I call Jamie. No, and I know Jamie will always give me the right advice, and she will always be the business yang to me being overly emotional and giving too many fucks. She will always pull me back from that ledge. But I don't know when it had to be a show.
It had to be a show, because the last time I remember us sitting down and talking and not having loud music behind us was at some barbecue with Mark Shapiro.
Yeah, God, that was
years ago, though. That was when we started talking about the glasses.
Always.
Yeah. But Amy and we haven't seen each other in a while, but we do talk all the time. And these days, especially with COVID, I feel like that's just as good as seeing someone.
Sure.
Yeah, it is.
Sure. Okay, Jamie, you said you made some notes when I said that I wanted the filth, like a couple of days ago. I sent an email saying we're going to focus.
I don't really have filth, because I'll tell you why. Everyone was scared to be inappropriate in front of me.
Why that bypassed me, not really sure.
Right. Well,
Maybe because they saw me as the little sister that they could, party with it, and you were like the mom.
yeah, I was like the not cool one. So I was like, all right, TikTok, let's go, everybody. Like
you would be the one being like, you need to do this, get over here and do this. And I'd be like, and you'd be like, all right, I always remember this story when we went to Florida with Obituary. And you were like, they want to go dirt track racing. I'm going to the hotel and go to sleep. You go out with the band. And I was like, okay. So I remember Trevor Perez from Obituary had this really small rented car.
Yeah.
And
that's why I couldn't go.
Yeah, you would, and I went out with them, and we went dirt track racing with Alan, who had drove that big truck, the guitarist. He drove, and I remember he got out of the car and forgot to put it in park, and it started rolling down the street.
Oh God, I heard.
And we picked up. It was with Frank, who passed away, Frank Watkins, who was awesome. And we went dirt track racing in Florida, and I remember being out till like 2 a.m. and I remember they were like, we're gonna. We ate boiled peanuts, which I had never had, which is like a Southern cuisine.
Yeah.
And I remember years later when I did an interview with one of the guys from Mastodon, and I was like, I was like, what's your favorite Southern food? And they were like, boiled peanuts. I was like, oh, I had those before. And they're like, them shits is good. And I'm like, they really are. But we went, and it was just like, I knew it
wouldn't be as fun if I went.
Oh, it would have been fun if you would have.
Well,
it was like,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it was just like, I carried the night on, and we were out super late, and it just made life easier when Obituary would come to New York for a show and do a day of press, and I would already know them. And Frank Watkins, I would pick them up from New Jersey, drive them into Manhattan to go to Sirius, take them back to SOU. So, I always loved it. But it was like sometimes when you were the person that they were having a good time with, you still had to always make sure that when we're not having a good time, they listen to you, because there were many times where Des and Rob Flynn, because we were such bros, they're like, oh, we'll do the interview later. And I'd be like, no, we're not doing the interview later. We're doing it now. And there were times when I had to chase those guys, and I think they were like, oh, it's Amy, our bro. And I'm like, no, it's not Amy, our bro. It's Amy, your radio person. And then your publisher.
Right. I mean, and they would hide from me sometimes. And I remember Sepultura used to talk about me in Portuguese. And I understand a little bit of Portuguese. And I was like, don't be mean. And they all looked at me like, I
can't even, I think of Max, and I think of Sepultura still, but
oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I do too. But at the time it was Derek Green Sepultura.
Obvious. Yeah, right, of course.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that I could be one of two ways. Either I could be the friend and have fun with people, or I could be the mom and not partake in the fun. And that's what I chose.
I think me and Michelle Kerr were the ones that were like straddled the line between being the friend and the radio publicist, their colleague for work. I think me and Michelle Kerr did a really good job of straddling those lines.
Well, I knew I was a pushover. I couldn't do both.
No, I think you were, because you were like, you probably, because at that point with the way Roadrunner was growing, I think your job was probably harder because you're the one that they're going, hey, Jim, when are we getting Thornley on Jay Leno? And your best line ever, we'll get it when it's gettable. And I still use that to this day, that you said that 20 years ago in a meeting. And I still say it to this day when people ask me about something and I'm working on it, and it's not there yet. I say, I'll get it when it's gettable. And you said that in front of a room full of people. And I was like, she's my new hero, my personal hero. But Jamie, I think you had the harder job because you were stepping into our bands were getting higher profile looks, and the pressure was on, what we got to get these bands.
It was a big jump. You're right. That was the time of like really big leaps for us as a label. And hey, I was making the leaps with the label. I mean, I had done some cool stuff, but not like the stuff I was able to do with like Slipknot and Nickelback and all of them, and Junkie XL, which got cooler stuff than Slipknot and Nickelback did at the time.
What's the difference though? Like, what's the difference between if you're Slipknot rolling into town versus an Obituary? Because I imagine the demands are different, but surely like the output's the same, right? You just got to behave. You got to speak to these people like you're your friends and get on with it.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like Obituary, like it was a little bit more logistics than it was press. Like it was like, okay, if we get these 5 things, we've got to make them last. Because Slipknot, we could get 100 things.
Oh, okay.
But getting them to do even 2 of those 100 things was was a logistical challenge too.
Oh my God. I'll tell you about the time I almost quit my job in Las Vegas because of Slipknot. But oh my God. Amy, were you working at the company at this point? I think you might have been. I think you might have been doing radio. Like, I was supposed to go for a week to Las Vegas. First 3 days of the week was Slipknot in town doing 2 shows. And then the second to last day, the fourth day was Chad from Nickelback in a poker tournament that I booked him for, celebrity poker tournament.
I'm pretty sure I was there.
Yeah, I think you were doing radio then. And then the last day was a Nickelback show at the Palms. And I checked in, I stayed at the Palms all week. And not only did the repetitive music at the Palms make me want to like strangle someone, but Slipknot would not do things. I had Revolver there, and that was when they did the 3 covers, the 3 different photos of 3 guys each. And like the band was like, after we rehearse, you can do the photos.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, TikTok, we've got to do the photos. I'm standing there maybe 4 hours. And the photo editor, Revolver, was like, what is fucking going on? When are we going to get these pictures? And I went to, I think at the time it was Steve. And I said, what is going on? We need these pictures. And they're like, yeah, we'll do them. Let's do them now. 15 minutes apiece. I got 45 minutes to shoot 3 covers. I was so angry. And then they forgot to put my name on the list that night at the show. And I was like, fuck these guys. I started drinking. I called my sister and I go, I'm quitting my job. And she's like, what? And I'm like, if you don't come to Las Vegas, I'm quitting my job. She was like, okay. And like, I flew her to Las Vegas to just like calm me down.
Jesus.
They were horrible to work.
What year was this?
Oh God. Let's see. It was 2000 maybe? 2001. 2001.
I'm not going to speak for them because I don't know them, but these are 20-something lads.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Their first Ozfest.
Oh right, that'll be 99, right?
No. That actually no. This had to have been the 2003 to 2006 time period.
Okay.
That photo shoot, because I remember in the first period it was like their first Ozfest. It was West Palm Beach, Florida. And I went down because my parents lived in West Palm Beach, so I figured I'd go and meet the new band. I basically had like 9 ducklings walking in back of me everywhere I went. And Amy, I think I've told you this story. They had like a henna tattoo thing in like the Ozfest, like
the village.
The village. And I got a big tribal S on my forearm, and I showed it to them. I go, look what I got. And they go, you got to get a real one. And I look at them and I go, when your album goes platinum. Needless to say, I've avoided them and avoided that topic since their album went platinum. Yeah.
Was there anyone that was on the roster that was just habitually a fucking nightmare for both of you? Or do you both have different nightmares?
I don't really remember anyone being a particular nightmare other than Slipknot's early manager prior to Corey, because Corey's great. But Steve Richards, who R.I.P., but he was horrible to me. I flew all the way out to LA to meet with him. I stood at his door. He watched me on the camera and did not answer it. Wow. And let me go back to New York without meeting with me.
Jesus.
Yeah, he was the worst. That was it.
I think it's the bands themselves. Sometimes it's just people, but sometimes it's people that are surrounding them that make it harder. But I would say I was really blessed because like I always tried to and I felt it was effective, and sometimes it sucked, but I felt it was effective, that I did become really, have really good, strong friendships that carry over to this day, with a lot of the bands that I worked with. I always wanted them to, wanted to be able to be on that level with them. And, some of my best memories, and I think I said this last time, were with Rob Flynn and the Machine Head lineup of The Blackening, Dave McClain, Phil Demmel, Adam, and Rob Flynn, I adore him. And most people say, Rob is a tough guy. Rob, I would not mess with him. And he is a very strong-minded, strong opinions. He makes his voice heard, but I love him like family. And, and I loved everybody in that band, and I love Dez to death too. I fought with him like we were related. I mean, I had brutal fights with him on the phone, hanging up with him. Don't call me back, don't, and to this day, I still love him like a brother too. It was like, we were in the shit together and working so close together. You couldn't not have that relationship with them.
Sure.
And I was like, I was younger. I'm younger than Jamie is. And I would be like, oh, I'm going to go Machine Head's tour. I'm going to go see them in Boston, and I'll go to DC, and I'll go to Philly, and I'll go to Jersey, and I'll go to New York.
The only band I ever did that with was Slipknot.
I did that many times with them too. But a lot of times with them, it was a little harder. And I had a great relationship with Corey Taylor, Clown, Joey, Paul Gray, RIP to both of them. Jim Root, I had great relationships with them because I would work with all the side bands too. And I'd be really on the ground level with like Murder Dolls and Stone Sour. But sometimes the Slipknot was hard because that machine is so well oiled. Like there were times I was like, all right, we're doing MTV, we're doing Music Choice, and then we're doing VH1, and then we're out. And if Joey's like, would be like, hey, I gotta go, boom. It wasn't a lot of time because the time you got with them was precious to get your work done. You couldn't go back to the office and be like, oh yeah, Corey Taylor missed that MTV interview. That was not an option. You had to make sure it happened no matter what. So they were a little bit harder to have, but they were great. I loved them. I had a great relationship with everybody in that band, but it was different with certain bands that it was like, all right, I know after the show, I'm going to be out far too late hanging out with Machine Head, but in a good way.
Well, Machine Head used to come around my birthday every year. And it was funny because I talked to Rob recently because he interviewed KK Downing on his show, on his podcast. And Rob was like, it was funny. Rob didn't realize it was me, Aim. So I was like, yeah, I go, Robbio. And he goes, what? Robbio. Because that's what Sophie used to call him. Mm-hmm. And then I turn on my camera and he goes, holy shit, it's you. And I'm like, yes, dummy. We've been emailing back and forth for like a week. And he's like, I didn't realize it was you. So
it's funny that way.
And I remember that like Typo were more my contemporaries. Like I'm more their age than I am the age of other bands. Which is, I think, why I spent so much time with them and we got along so well. Josh used to try and psychoanalyze me on the couch in his suite at the La Park Hotel in LA whenever we were there for press. Because both his parents are psychologists. So he was always trying to psychoanalyze me. And then I remember when we did press for World Coming Down in New York.
Right.
And it was at the Chelsea Hotel. And I thought I was smart. It was like the sweltering heat of summer. And the air conditioning broke. And Peter was already in a horrible mood. So he would not do the press until I got bottles of wine, of red wine. So I had to go out and buy them.
Sounds like him.
Uh-huh.
Can you just make those demands? Can you just go,
yeah, he could. He's like, I'm not doing anything until I get wine.
And you knew that if you didn't have wine when Peter Steele was doing an interview, like it wasn't going to be good. So it was like, let's just get him the wine to make it better.
He almost punched a journalist from Germany that day. I was like, all right, I'm getting you wine. Relax. So, I'm trying to think of some other guy. I mean, you were there for Roadrunner United, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That was quite.
I was the only one who didn't get to have fun at our Christmas party.
Yeah, that was Roadrunner United.
That was just about that.
well, the Roadrunner Christmas parties, you know, not the Roadrunner United one, but
Right.
the annual Christmas party was always pretty wild.
Oh,
You
it was
know,
the stuff of legend.
I know. And I was like, please, is somebody going to steal my trash can again this year? And then when I come to work tomorrow, I'm not going to have anywhere to throw things out. It was every year it would end up missing. And you would hope nobody would take your chair.
Oh, yeah.
The buckaroos, you know, but
the best was the day I quit in 2001 was the first day that 36 Crazy Fists came into the office. Mm-hmm. And it was me, Veronica, Matt Polin, and I don't remember who else was with us, but we went out drinking with them, and they forgot where their hotel was. And I was like, I just quit. I can't put you up in a different hotel now. I couldn't get anyone on the phone. So I had to get them a room at the Gramercy Park Hotel.
Is that like, what kind of hotel is that for old York residents such as myself?
Right. It's much nicer now than it was then. They redid it.
Right.
But it wasn't a dump. It was like a nice hotel, like right by Gramercy Park. And it was like around the corner from the office.
Right.
So it's like, you guys are so dumb, I have to put you right near the office. So I got them a hotel room, and it was Brock and the drummer, and they were fighting. And I was
also sounds like Brock and Thomas all the time.
Yeah. And I was like, you need to be fucking quiet. Someone has video of this. Steve has video of this, by the way. He never showed anyone. But I had to like throw Thomas in the elevator. And I got them in their room, and they were literally fist fighting because they were so drunk.
First time I met him, Brock had a black eye, and I was like, what happened? He was like, oh, Thomas and I got in a fight last night. I was like, what? Like, you're in a band and you beat the shit out of each other? Yes.
They are the only band I know that can get thrown out of a party, each for a different reason. At Roadrunner United, they all got thrown out.
They were like one of those baby bands when I first started. That was one of the first bands I worked, them in 5.0. They were like the new bands that were signed. And I didn't love 36 Crazy Fists' first record, and I really didn't like A Snow-Capped Romance either until like 4 or 5 months after it came out. Mike D from Killswitch Engage said to me, you know, they took them on tour, and I was like, man, I don't really like them. He goes, how do you not like them? It sounds like everything that you love, you know, because Mike D knew what I was into. And he goes, go back and listen to it, and then make sure you pay attention when they play live. And it just clicked for me. And I look at A Snow-Capped Romance as one of my top 5 favorite records that I ever worked, and one of the 10 best releases Roadrunner ever put out that most people have not heard. What's that?
What are your other top releases Roadrunner put out?
I would have to say Alive or Just Breathing, which came out on my birthday. I would say The End of Heartache, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, and All Hope Is Gone, because that was, you know, All Hope Is Gone was the #1 record. The Blackening, which is hands down another one of the best things Roadrunner ever released. There's a lot of them. You know, but All Hope Is Gone is special to me because it was a #1. I worked at Madison Square Garden sold out show on the back of that. Yeah. The End of Heartache, because
End of Heartache is one of mine too.
That record to me was just because like I love Jesse and Howard in totally different ways. But I remember when The End of Heartache came out, it came out the same day as the Thornley record came out. And I remember Thornley had K-Rock Airplay, Thornley had Snipes Around Manhattan, and Thornley had a TV appearance. And Killswitch Engage had the Young Turks working it. And it was metal radio and metal press and touring. And Thornley sold 6,000 records the first week, and The End of Heartache sold 40,000. And we were like, what do you guys want to say about what the Young Turks can do? 40,000 records? Let's get them to 240,000. Yeah. That was one of the biggest moments of pride that I had working there, was when that happened. Not because we didn't want to, I thought Ian Thornley was amazing, but it was like all the eggs were like, everybody was putting all the, because it had the potential to be a huge smash. I understood that from a business perspective. But the Young Turks are the people who were the Sepultura, the Cynic, the Disincarnate, Sepultura, Soulfly. We were the metal people, the people who said to Case, we love Gojira, when he asked, what did you sign? You know, so when that happened, like we were just really, really, really pumped, because we were like, here's our metal band, which just came out of the gates and sold 40,000 records first. We were so awesome. Happy because we were also coming off the back of a flawless record with Alive or Just Breathing and Jesse leaving the band, and we didn't know what we had. I was the first person that saw Howard's first show at Hellfest. It was me and Kenny and Vaughn, their managers, still their managers to this day. I was the only person at Roadrunner, and I was told my opinion was far too biased because I was close with the band, because I love them. And I was like, no, Howard was awesome, I promise. And I also love Blood Has Been Shed. But my opinion was considered far too biased by the uppers, and I understood why. But so having the band come back and come out of the gates with The End of Heartache like that was really powerful and really important, really important, and I'm so psyched because next week I'm getting to see the show, the Kill Switch, Light the Torch, and August Burns Red. And I do all three bands, but I keep telling people, don't tag me in the videos and I'm not looking at the set list because I want to be surprised.
Right.
So, and I've been waiting for this tour for 2 years because it got canceled the day before I was supposed to go see it in 2020. And it was the day after my dad's funeral. And I just needed that show. And now I'm getting it. So I'm just pumped. And I don't want to know what Howard and Jesse sing. I already made my guesses and I don't want to know if I was right.
Aw.
What about yours, Jamie?
It's just like, I went to work at Roadrunner for 3 bands: Slipknot, Killswitch Engage, and Glassjaw. And, it was really amazing to see a lot of that stuff happen as it did. And I only got to work like one Glassjaw tour and then they left.
My favorites were definitely Glassjaw, Everything You Ever Want to Know.
Definitely one of the best things we ever released.
Junkie XL, Saturday Teenage Kick.
Sure.
Drugstore, El President.
Wow.
That drugstore.
Divine?
The Sheila Divine, 100%. I love those guys. I am still his biggest fan. And End of Heartache. Yeah, I mean, I was far more into like the rock radio stuff. And I remember when Nickelback first came about, and I was like, I don't know. And they were like this, and Ron Berman was telling me this song's going to be a huge hit, and he played How You Remind Me for me. I'm like, I don't really like it. And he was like, it's going to be huge. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. And
It was.
they were easy to get on television, though, I will say that. I remember when I got Slipknot on TV for the first time. Oh, no, not TV for the first time, because that was Conan, and that happened a lot. When I got them on the Tonight Show, we were at rehearsals and we're sitting there, and the booker comes in and goes, I need to talk to you. So I come out and I go, what? She's like, I didn't know they wore masks. I go, why did you not look at what I sent you?
What did you book?
And she's like, well, you booked Nickelback and Thornley with me, so I figured it was like that. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I guarantee you this record will be #1 or #2. She's like, you better be right. And it was #2. Avril Lavigne beat it. But yeah. But yeah, she was like squeezing my hand through the taping while Clown was like humping his drums. And I was like, oh my God, make it stop. Like she was squeezing my hand. I was squeezing Corey Brennan's hand.
Were the masks a massive deal in the US? Because in the UK, it was the subject of, because as I said before, I mean, like we only have like single digit relevant publications all across the board in the UK. And every single one was like, all these fucking guys, sniffing dead crows, and we might have found the identity of. I remember there was one they ran in the Sun, which is a shit rag newspaper. They said they found the identity of the Slipknot guys, and it was just a picture of Children of Bodom. It wasn't. It was just 5 dudes.
At first, people were like, "Oh, it's like Insane Clown Posse," and I was like, "No." And everybody's like, well, they're all clowns, right? And I go, no, they're not. And like, I had a really hard time getting people to take them seriously from looking at them. But their first cover story was Alternative Press. And it was just Corey on the cover. And you wouldn't believe what a hard time I got for that. I'm like, 9 people aren't going to fit on the cover. But I went to Iowa with the writer for the story. Joey did not show up for the interview, but the other 8 showed up. So they were doing all this stuff and they were doing the interview. And then somebody passed around a piece of paper and said, sign your name. So since Joey wasn't there, I signed Joey's name. They did handwriting analysis in the piece.
Oh my God.
So the handwriting analysis for Joey is actually for me.
Right.
That's amazing.
What it says, you have unresolved issues with a family pet or something like that.
Hey, you know, it could have been true, but yeah. So that was interesting. That was kind of a sign of things to come. But
also,
yeah,
like when you talk about the masks, like when I started too, like Stone Sour and Murder Dolls, which are basically Joey and Corey unmasked, you know, we had to really come up with ways to how we were going to promote Stone Sour, especially because it was such a commercially viable band and had, you know, with Bother was such a different style, you know, song than we were used to with Slipknot, and you know, how we were going to work that and promote it. And Corey toured without the mask, and he had a very different look back then. It was really it was funny and it was challenging because it was so different. I'll actually share a funny Corey Taylor story from the Stone Sour era. I remember I was going up to Boston with Lou Mansdorf, and you know him, you know Malibu Lou. Lou was the regional sales, the Northeast regional sales guy. And Lou was like, why don't you come up to Boston with me? We'll go do Stone Sour is going to do an in-store at Newbury Comics in New Hampshire before a show in Boston. We'll go up there, we'll have a good time, we'll go and you'll meet all the people at the Boston branch. And I was only at Roadrunner for like a year at this point, and it was like in December, so we went up there. Lou drove it. We had so much fun because, you know, Lou never stops talking. And he was telling me all about like girls he was dating and stuff. It was fun, it was super fun. So we get up there and we pick up Corey Taylor and Josh and Sean Economaki, and we pick them up to take them to the in-store. And we're waiting, and you know, because when back then you would pick them up in a van, you know, in one of those big, like, you know, Chevy vans where it could sit like 8 people. So we're sitting in there, and we got a copy of Kerrang, which had the review of Stone Sour's self-titled first record, the Stone Sour record. And Corey Taylor opens it up and he's reading it. And it's like, and the review basically says that this is like Corey Taylor light, basically. And they're like, you know, it doesn't have that bite that we love and expect from Corey Taylor. And he read that out loud and he goes, fuck yeah, screamed at the magazine proving their point that the Corey Taylor they wanted, who just screamed fuck you, was screaming at the magazine for saying that that's what they weren't getting. And I just remember, I wish I had filmed that, because it was such an honest, like uncompromised, unfiltered moment with Corey that showed the brilliance of Corey Taylor, you know, and the two sides of him. He's reading it and he's like, you know, he's always like, oh, Judas Priest with his, and he's so talkative and he's so gift of gab, and he just stopped and basically yelled fuck you to a magazine. It was just the cutest thing. It was one of my favorite memories with him, because, you know, he's larger than life. I still watch him perform and I'm always in awe. I think he's one of the best frontmen ever. But I have some of my greatest memories of Roadrunner with him, you know, because some people think like it's Corey Taylor, he's untouchable. He's actually really an accessible guy. I think I said this last time. Like, I remember one time we had a bunch of interviews when I moved to the press department, and he fell asleep with Griffin, his son, when he was a baby, and he missed all his interviews. And he called me back at the office, and he's like, because he used to call me Ames. And he was like, Ames, I missed all my interviews. He goes, tell every journalist I'll give him 15 extra minutes for wasting their time. And that's just the kind of guy he is, you know, like he's like, I was like, you fell asleep with Griffey, your son. Nobody can fault you for that. You're being a good dad and you have a baby. And he gave every interviewer, it was like Billboard, all these big stuff. He gave everybody extra time. And I was like, that's just how awesome he was, you know, and is like, he's the real deal, you know, and I have some really great memories with him. And some people think he's so intimidating, and he is, and he's like my height, but he's still intimidating. But it's just, I'll never forget him looking at that magazine. And like, basically I was like, wow, if that magazine was a person, they would have probably fell into a puddle of tears, because it was intense.
Well, I remember when they said Glassjaw's album was rap rock because Ross produced it.
Yeah, didn't even listen to it.
I was like, you obviously did not listen to this record. And I tried to get the guy fired.
You're like, oh, I'm just trying to get fired. I remember when I started, before I started at Roadrunner, when I had my first interview with Jamie for the job I actually had turned down. I remember telling her, I'm like, Jamie, I don't really like Coal Chamber, you know? And you were like, listen, a lot of this music is lost on me. Do you think I like Sepultura? No, but you can tell the story. You were like, you can tell the story. You can go in there and make this stuff happen. I know you can. She goes, I do it, and I know you can do it. I was like, but I really love Glassjaw, and it sounds like they're having problems with Roadrunner. And you're like, well, you're like, we work the bands at the label, what's priorities at the label, and if they're off cycle or they're having problems, you have to move on to the next thing, you know? So I learned lessons from you, even from doing a job interview, about how things worked. Like, yes, Glassjaw is one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite releases of all time, but if it was off cycle, it wasn't something that was, you know, we were shifting our attentions to the things that were newly coming out.
That's the difference between being a fan and a publicist, you know. It's like, when you're the publicist, you have to go with the priorities of the company.
Yeah,
especially when you're at a label, because everybody like, I was working at Better Noise recently, and everybody was home because of the pandemic, and everyone wanted to do interviews, but I could only work like a few things because I couldn't give everyone what they wanted. Priorities, you know? I mean, it's just not humanly possible.
So one thing I wanted to ask was, you had to push Monty though, didn't you? Because with the Roadrunner United project, he was the one doing the interviews, right?
He did do press around it. He did a lot of radio interviews for me, like SOU and stuff like that.
Yeah. How was he like that? Because he probably wasn't like, he's not a rock star, so he probably wouldn't have. He probably had another. Yeah, he's a shy dude. So I imagine
he didn't want to do press.
Right.
Yeah, he was like, make Jonas do it.
So yeah, Monty was always very, very shy that way. You know what I mean? He's the guy the bald guy in his office. You know, and come in. You want to hear the new Machine Head record, which I remember he played the Blackening for me at the Roadrunner Christmas party in December 2006. And I was like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's still one of the best releases that we ever put out.
Well, let's talk about the show then. So Roadrunner United show.
I got Billy Vallo to come because I had just come back from Universal where I was working him, and Billy and I were talking about what a huge Typo Negative fan he was.
Right, yeah.
Like, actually, I have a proposal for you. So he came and he did the Typo song.
Who brought Scott Ian in? I know Scott Ian has a connection anyway because SOD was Roadrunner in Europe, right?
I think so.
Was that just him going?
Scott Ian is just like a guy around town. You know, he's like, it's easy to, not easy, but Scott Ian's accessible. You know, like he's always, it's like, if you're working on something with an artist and you can get to him pretty easily. It's actually really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you need someone to play speaking. No, it wasn't. It was March of SOD, wasn't it? That song that they opened up with, I think.
Gosh.
I can't remember.
Have you talked to Phil Queso at all? You should talk. He's still there. He's like on the Atlantic side, on the radio side now, but Phil Queso's been there probably the longest. And I remember he was passed out at the Roadrunner United party, sitting behind Case and Jonas, passed out.
Everybody was having so much fun, and I was like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Yeah, I had like 4 people as runners for me that night, and I gave everyone a kit with like cigarettes and a lighter and blah blah blah, and they were like, what's this for? I go, it's for keeping the artists where they are. They aren't allowed to go anywhere to get anything. You have everything in this package.
Yeah, because they're not going to come back.
Right.
I was going to say, it was like press there or something, or was it right
No, there was a lot of press there, and we had photographers, and I had to organize a photo with everybody, and oh my God.
But it was like just so many people from the history of the company were there. They flew in all the European people.
Yeah.
You know, I think the only two major vocalists, I think Monty said, that weren't involved with Roadrunner United. I think the only major one, I think, was Burton C. Bell, I thought it was. And I remember Max Cavalera couldn't make it, and Gloria sent flowers to us, you know, and it was because Max was another one. I mean, I think I worked 500 Max related albums, and he was a gem, just a gem of a human being. He was Roadrunner too. You know what I mean? It was like Max Cavalera should have a statue in the lobby, you know, and he was just a sweetheart.
And Gloria was great to work with.
She was. A lot of people talk about Gloria was. I never had to ask twice for anything.
Hey, at Ozfest, Gloria would sit with Sharon Osbourne, and I would just like go, oh, can I sit with you guys? and Gloria always like let me hang out. So that was good, because when I was younger, like I just wanted to learn from the best, you know.
Yeah. And she was.
And that reminds me of the Coal Chamber Shock the Monkey video shoot with Ozzy in it. Sharon was managing Cold Chamber at the time. Every time I flew out to LA, I got sick for some reason. And so I fly out to LA, I get off the plane. I had MTV News coming to the video shoot.
Right.
My first message was Sharon going, "Hi, Ozzy might not be at the shoot tomorrow. I'm sure that's fine. Okay, I'll see you later." Second was, "Hey, it's MTV News. We're so excited that Ozzy's going to be at the shoot tomorrow." You know, and I got so agitated that I got shingles.
Oh my God.
I went to the hotel. I went to bed. I woke up with spots all over my face. So I took a baseball hat and put it on and sunglasses, and I went into Sharon Osbourne's office. To Jennifer Perry at the time was working with her. And Jennifer was like, "What is going on with your face?" And
That probably feels great.
And Sharon and Jennifer found me a clinic to go to get medication.
Wow.
I had shingles on the left side of my
The
face.
head makes you break out in shingles. Great.
Roadrunner made me break out in shingles. I blamed Roadrunner forever for that.
It's kind of easy to do.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the first time you met Trivium then? I'm full of piss and vinegar on Trivium all the time. And I've just like I was watching some old 2005 footage of them. I was like, fucking hell, there's so much urgency to those shows. What the hell was that like when they first came onto the label?
Well, Trivium was like part of a wave of new and up and coming bands that we had signed. Like it was Trivium, 3 Inches of Blood, the Agony Scene still remains. I remember they had done that tour. And Trivium,
Road Rage,
I always kind of liken it to this. When I started at Roadrunner, it was like Fear Factory, Typo, and Sepultura. I was working their last records pretty much for the label, and they were kind of cycling out. And then it was like Slipknot was breaking, Killswitch had signed. You know, there was Glassjaw, there was a Cold Chamber had shifted to Devil Driver, and Machine Head soon was going to put out a return to form album with Through the Ashes of Empires.
Yep.
And then we had Trivium, and Monty was really okay, I'm going to share an inside joke. Between me and Dave Rath. But like all the time when Trivium, like they revitalized Monty. I feel like they were like a band that Monty was like found and loved, and it kind of like reinvigorated him.
Okay.
And was like reminded him of this was my assessment of the classic bands that signed to Roadrunner, you know, that he had signed. Mm-hmm. And he would always just like, and then Trivium really did like, they got to a point, especially in the UK, where they were really like just massive over there. Yep. And we were developing them here over time to be a solid metal band, but it was much quicker in the UK. You know, here they have built into such a respectable what they are. You know, Matt Heafy is now at the point where he commands looks in the press that took a long time to get to, and it's amazing to be a part of, but that took more time here. They got accepted, I think, quicker in the UK. And it took more time here. And I just remember Monty would always be like, "Oh, Trivium blew up." They just always would say that in meetings, sorry. And so me and Dave Rath always say that to each other. But Trivium really, you know, Matt was just always a really smart kid. He was a fan of music. You know, when I first met him, he was talking to me about how he was like, how much he like loved emo as much as he loved black metal. And it was not fake. It was like, he was really listening to the stuff closely, and it was inspiring him. So I think the fact that Matt is really smart and an excellent player, and he's surrounded by great players, Paolo, you know, and Corey, those guys also are full of personality. I always tell people when they ask me to interview Matt, and I say, "Hey, Matt really does limited press because he's Matt Heafy at this point." And I always tell people, talk to Paolo. He's a great interview. He's entertaining. Whenever I listen to his interviews, I love them. I'm like, I would recommend Paolo over Matt because he's just so entertaining at this point. And people come back and they're like, "Oh my God, Paolo's like one of my favorite interviews ever," because he's just fun. And I think they just always did it right. They just get better with every album. They get better with age. I still look at In Waves, and I think that's one of the best things that they've ever done. I think Matt just thinks things without overthinking them. And he was just always started out as a really smart kid. You know, I remember when they were opening for Machine Head, when on Burn My Eyes 10th anniversary tour, I remember in Philly, Matt came out after they played and he was like, oh my God, crowd was brutal. I said, well, it's Philly. It's always going to be brutal, but you're opening for Machine Head on an anniversary tour for an album people love. And Matt he stares everything down really with he wants to go out there and kill it. And it's not like so obvious. He's just a smart, talented kid, and just, it's real with Matt. Everything about him is real.
Yes,
I think that people felt that.
We pontificated on sort of current era Matt Heafy like last time we spoke, but I think it's like the manifestation of that is kind of like it's post excess rock and roll era, isn't it? It's just pure smarts. The guy's not tempted to he's not tempted to have the lifestyle effect.
Well, he's got twins, at home and he's twitching but I think I told you, we went on a press day. I remember it was 2016 and this was before Twitch was what it is now. And Matt was twitching he was like, hey, can I go on my Twitch channel while I do this guitar playthrough at Guitar World? And then we went to do a metal injection thing in Brooklyn and he was twitching the whole entire time. And there's Twitch videos. Sometimes you see me in the background going like organizing things, what we do, James. So, and I think I told you that people say, hey, I see you in my Starbucks guys. I saw you in the Trivium video. And I was like, you got to be a fan to have recognized me in that video. And I was like, what band? Because it was me. He's like, Matt Heafy and Trivium. I love that he calls them Matt Heafy and Trivium, my Starbucks guy, James. But he, I just think that Matt is in a different place now. They were a little wild when they first started. And I think it was a little bit pumped up in the media because when I didn't look at Trivium as these big wild party animals. They just look like kids, Dude, and
first of all, they were the babies when I was there. They were my babies, but you knew how crazy it was from the Roadrunner retreat, dude.
Oh gosh. Yeah, well, I was my roommate. That was my roommate situation. I slept on a couch. That was really fun.
Whitney and I took you in.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go crash with Gitter, which I really don't want to do because I don't know what it smells like in there, and it's probably not good. And I love Gitter, but I was like, I got kicked out of my room at the Roadrunner retreat.
Do I want to hear the story?
That would probably be an off the record one.
Yeah, that's gotta be an off the record. But I have a good on the record one. When Roadrunner United was happening, and I had a million interviews I needed them to do. Joey and Matt were on Ozfest at the time. So I went to LA, got Dino and Rob, rented an RV, filled it with food and beer, and drove it from LA to San Bernardino. Right. And basically Trivium raided the RV and took all the beer and came on, sat with me and ate half the food.
Oh my goodness. The children.
Yeah, I was like, okay, guys. I was like, come here, are you eating? Because they were
become like a mom to these guys too, because you're just and you're spending so much time with them.
And they were the sweetest. So yeah, I went and we had this RV. I can't even believe I drove an RV from LA to San Bernardino.
That doesn't sound fun.
It was not. Meanwhile, the whole time, Rob was going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Because he knew it would annoy me. And Dino was ignoring both of us. So.
Gosh, those dudes. It was like the classic era, though. You know what I mean? All of our bands always toured together. So that always made it feel more like a family, too. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, if I'm going out to see Cold Chamber and Machine Head and playing together, I know I'm going to be doing stuff and taking them all to different interviews and getting them to do stuff together, and that also kind of contributed to it being like a family.
And one thing that everybody who's a fan of Fear Factory needs to know is Raymond Herrera eats more than any human being that I have ever experienced. And Dino is not the one that eats a lot, and it was Raymond. So.
Is there any band that you thought should have gone further than they did during your tenures?
Sheila Divine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Junkie XL. It was fucking brilliant record, critically acclaimed, but maybe people weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
And the Drugstore record had Tom York on it and didn't do anything.
I remember too, when we started with Theory of a Dead Man, that was one of the bands I used to do video promotion for them. And I remember we started, it took us a long time to break them, you know, and I remember I considered that, like, I was so proud to be a part of that success, because also they're awesome dudes. But it took a long time for us. I mean, we worked like 11 singles off of Scars and Souvenirs, I think. And it was like, just like, it took time to get there, but Roadrunner really invested in them and artist development to break the band. It took a lot of money and a couple of records and a lot of singles, but I thought they were going to be bigger sooner, because I thought Make Up Your Mind was like a smash hit, and it was like a moderate hit, you know. I also think, I will say this, I think the one song, and it's funny because I recently got my brother into this band, because he's like, I love Dirty Honey. And I was like, hold on a second. You need to listen to Blackstone Cherry. And I got him the entire Blackstone Cherry catalog. And I think Blackstone Cherry's Soul Creek should be a smash hit, because that's one of the best songs that Roadrunner ever released. And it's an anthem. It's got licks. That song. And those guys were just awesome. Just great Southern dudes. They're huge in the UK. Here, they're a moderate band. But I remember when I first heard Soul Creek in a marketing meeting, I was like, this band, we're going to break Blackstone Cherry on that song. And we didn't. And I always look back and I don't know how. That, I think Blackstone Cherry should have a platinum single with Soul Creek. And if you don't know that song, go and listen to it, because it is a fist in the air. It is an anthem. And my brother was like, how did you not introduce me to this song sooner? I love it. It's like, he goes, what an anthem. I go, I know, you think Dirty Honey's good? Listen to Blackstone Cherry. And he always says, there's no filler on that first record.
I've actually got a Blackstone Cherry story.
Oh, really?
I can share a story. I went to Download 2008, and then when you went in, they gave you this little radio thing, and they did this Download radio. They had a little caravan next to the main stage where they'd either interview bands or they'd just say, "Oh, the fires broke out, keep away from this bit," or whatever the fuck's going on. And they interviewed Ben from Blackstone Cherry, and I was a relatively seasoned fan of Blackstone Cherry, because it was like 3 months before Folklore and Superstition came out. Blind Man was what they were running on the festival circuit. And I was like, fuck it, I'll go onto the main stage and I'll see if I can catch the end of this interview. And I catch him as he's coming out of the caravan, and we do the whole like shake hands and stuff like that. And I tell him that I was going to watch his set, and I was also going to watch him at Grass Pop a few weeks later. And he was so fucking like gracious and appreciative that I'd taken the time to say hi then, and then I was making a commitment to see him later on as well. He was like absolutely fucking blown away.
That's like a Southern thing too, like Southern gentlemen. Like, people in the South, they're just raised right. And like I remember I used to talk to John, John Fred's dad, Richard, all the time. He would always call, and he was awesome. And like I think that was a great Southern rock band that I thought they had hit after hit, and I don't know why. That should have been a smash. Soul Creek. It's my favorite song in their entire catalog. I can listen to it at any time, and I feel great every time I listen to it, because it's such a good song. I wish we could have broke that song.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. That's my favorite song by them. I'm not saying maybe someday. Maybe someday from first album.
Here Comes the Rain. That's a good song too. Wayne Wizard. Sorry.
Rain Wizard. Yeah.
I was just going by the hook here, but Soul Creek is my favorite by them. And I think, I look back and at 36 Crazy Fists, Snow-Capped Romance. And I remember Jose at Sirius was a huge proponent of playing that. He used to play at the end of August every 5 seconds when Sirius Liquid Metal, when it was Heart Attack, was just getting started. And that record is, I can't believe that I didn't like it when it came out. I'm kind of embarrassed at myself for not, and because I look at it now and I'm like, wow, what a great record this was. How did we failed this one, because it was so good. I just think we didn't know what to do with it. And I think it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. With sorry, go on, Jamie.
I think the Sheila Divine New Parade is one of my favorite records of all time, and I think we weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
Because it should have been a hit.
I was going to say, now the tiredness is getting to me. I apologize. I had a good question / observation, but now I've just fucking lost it.
Oh, did you know about the hip hop label that we acquired at one point?
That was the one, that was late 97, right? That was late 97, 98.
No. It might have been like 99.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, it was like there were some rappers. I worked in Ultramagnetic MC's record.
We
Yeah.
reissued that too, I remember.
Yeah. I know I worked in Ultramagnetic MC's record, and working with Cool Keith was one of the strangest experiences of my life.
I'm gonna look this up because it's bothering me that I don't know what it. Next Plateau?
No, Next Plateau was actually there when I first got there. Next Plateau was prior to 97. And it tapered off when I got there in 97. Oh God. And it was the one when Jim Mahoney came to work with us. Jim Mahoney is, Jim Mahoney, right?
Yeah, he declined to
oh yeah. Well, he's at Merlin now. He's
Yes.
he's a big shot. I like him. I always had fun. I sat next to him. So
yeah, it seems like a good dude.
yeah, he worked the hip hop stuff. We used to who called him? I think Mike called him Jim my homie.
James, you gotta have Rich Perkins on. Rich Perkins.
He was like the stealth funniest guy at the label.
Funniest guy in the company. I'm sitting back there in the middle of all of us and just making comments and observing and understanding. Un, dos, tres, cuatro. Remember that? We'd always do the
shit, time to fuck shit up. He got me a clock and it said un, dos, tres,
for the time.
Time to fuck shit up.
Yep. I'm telling you, Rich Perkins probably has a lot of stories too.
Is he IT?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, I've definitely gotten. Yes, yeah.
Andrew Carpenter. I mean, he was always the silent guy in the back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but he was like the silent, creepy dude.
Yeah, Rich Perkins was the fun guy.
Yeah, Rich was fun. And then who else did I sit next to that left? Oh, Carl Severson. You talked to him, right?
Yes. Okay. Love Carl.
He was another one that sat next to me.
Here's what I was going to ask. Did you ever get an anxiety attack watching Joel O'Keefe climb the fucking rigging at every show? Because I did.
Oh, Joel from Airborne?
Yeah. It just I can't remember which song it would be, but there'd be like an extended solo bit, and he'd climb the fucking rigging. And
he was like he's a small guy too. So you're just like, man, if he falls, he's not making it.
Yeah.
That was after my time, but I had Dillinger escape plan by then, so I know what anxiety attacks are like.
Yeah. Greg blowing fire at people's faces.
Yeah.
But it was, I just look at it like even a band like Slipknot, they would even record like a video for our Roadrunner retreats. You know what I mean? They were, I feel like, as untouchable as they might have seemed, I was really on the ground with them a lot and have a lot of great memories of, Corey Taylor. One of my favorite memories is when we gave them platinum plaques for Volume 3. And, Corey Taylor just getting emotional, thanking all of us for everything that we did for him, and I'll never forget that as long as I live, because coming from a guy like that, it's like, wow, it just makes you want to run to your desk and work harder for them the next day.
Yeah. I mean, I was with them at the Grammys the year they won. And I said to them, I go, you guys better get here early, better be sober. And like, they like to torture me because I was so serious. So Corey Brennan liked to torture me too at the time. So Corey Brennan was with them and he's like, yeah, we're going to drink some beers. And then I'm like, Corey! And he's like, no, everyone's fine. And I'm like, you have to get there early. And he's like, why? They had to go through an extra security check because they wanted to wear masks on the red carpet. Right. And let me tell you, good thing I wore sneakers that year because I had to run back and forth on the red carpet. But the funny thing, it made me think of it when you said that people saw you in the background, Aim, because everybody saw me in the background for all of the live shots that we did with Slipknot, because I had to basically yank them and drag them down the red carpet to get there.
The red carpet is always...
You were just on E. And I'm like, really? So many people with us the year Slipknot won.
Oh, I'm sure it was like a huge...
It was every guy and their girlfriend and Ross Robinson and whoever Ross Robinson was with. And then Steve, the younger Steve. And oh my God, there were so many people that I had to bring a friend with me that year and tell her to get the back.
Wrangle everybody else.
Front.
That's what people... we're adult babysitters, basically. Publicists, we're adult babysitters.
Oh yeah. And then they get on there and they're thanking everybody, like everybody, not me.
You're
right there.
What about Meatloaf, Amy?
Yes. I got to work with Meatloaf. He was a part of Roadrunner's Loud and Proud label. And when I worked with him, I was the only person in the press department at that time. It was just me. And I remember one day we had 2 full days booked of like the Greta Van Susteren, CNN, the Today Show, Good Morning America. We were going all around doing the press tour. And I spent the whole 2 days with him, and Francis, his day-to-day manager, Chris Brown, was with us. And I had a great time. And I remember like just posting on Facebook, like, hey, I'm spending my day, me and Meatloaf are going to see Hoda and Kathy Lee. We're going to Good Morning. I had a great time with him. He was a gentleman. And he was a legend. It was Meatloaf. I mean, that's when I can tell my parents I work with Meatloaf and they'll understand what I do, you know, whereas they're like, well, do you go to these shows to like root them on? They don't understand what my job is, you know? And so
my parents don't either.
Yeah, they don't get they don't understand what you're doing. And I just like, listen, I'm an adult babysitter, but you know, Meatloaf was great. You know, it was different for us because it was like, you know, this was my first experience working with like breakfast television and major media outlets like the Today Show, and getting to go there and be like, oh my God, look, it's Kathy Lee, you know, like, so I really enjoyed my time working with him. He was a total professional.
Handcool Teddy Bear is a fucking beast. But I always, when me and my missus first got together, she was like, oh, went to see Meatloaf and they were just handing this album out for free.
Yeah.
It's like, as you go in, because he's like, he's not stupid. He'd be like, I know you're here for Bad Out of Hell, but listen to that album.
That's all, like exactly. Like that's all people cared about.
Yeah. But it's like that record, like you got Hugh Laurie playing fucking piano. You got Justin Hawkins writing like 3 or 4 songs, post-Darkness Justin Hawkins, but immediately pre-Darkness. Fucking Bon Jovi's written a song on it. It's bonkers. There's just so much shit going on. It's really good. It's really fucking. It's one of my. I have it on all the time. To be fair, I think it's really awesome.
Well, that label, Loud and Proud, was interesting. We had Collective Soul, you know, who had a lot of hits in the U.S.
That's awesome.
They had Sammy Hagar. You know, it was an interesting Rob Zombie. It was an interesting label.
Yeah, and Slash was on Roadrunner, not.
He was on Roadrunner proper, but that was not in the U.S.
No, it was in Europe. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was never.
Did you meet William Luff, by the way? He's in the UK. He's got a company called Willful Publicity now. He was Michelle Kerr's counterpart when I started.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was Michelle Kerr's counterpart at Roadrunner. That's how I know him.
Right.
I didn't realize that. I always thought it was just her.
I figure since you're there, maybe you want to meet him. I can intro you if you want.
Go for it. Yeah, I'm all ears for everyone, as you can tell.
William's great. He's wonderful. I work on a couple of projects with him now. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, guys, I've run out of like things I'm curious about. Is there anything
I have 2 things left to tell you.
Go for it. Give me everything.
One was the night of the Typo Negative beach shoot. With the reflectors, the picture I sent you the link of. So Stephanie Cabral wanted to shoot them. And she picked out the location because I was in LA. I didn't know where it was going. And Kathy Merritt came with us.
Just to be clear, there's because I don't think I can put it on screen without permission, and to save the effort, there's an image of the 4 guys on the beach with like sun reflectors, but it's the moon. It's nice and gothic and dark and cool. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, that's Playgirl. Sorry.
Trust me, I was the keeper of the Playgirl for many years.
You gave it to me when you left.
Yeah. So we went on the beach. We got harassed by the police. We all got parking tickets, and Jonas wouldn't pay my parking ticket.
He wouldn't?
No.
Jackson.
Oh man. And Peter was like, "You better pay your parking ticket." And then
I'm surprised he didn't say I'll burn the fucking building down.
He probably did.
He probably did, except for Joni. He would have said, "Get Joan Bolvin out. Get Joni out."
Yeah. And
you know, it's called Joan Bolvin.
And remember Linda? Is she married to Dave still?
Yeah, Linda Kusnetz. Yeah, she's married to Raph.
Oh, okay. So she was our art director, and she and I were talking, and Peter comes in and goes, did you pay your parking ticket? I'm like, no. He goes, I'm going to talk to him. I'm like, no, don't talk to him, please. And then he was like, all right, so let's go. And I go, I have plans tonight. He goes, yes, with me. And I'm like, what? And Linda goes, yeah, you're coming with us. Because he wanted Linda to go out for dinner with him. And she wouldn't go if I didn't come. So I was, yes, you have plans with me. So I call my boyfriend and tell him I have plans with Peter Steele. Sorry.
Like, and Pete Steele's like this, so.
Yeah. That was one thing that I wanted to tell you. And then the other thing was, it wasn't Roadrunner United because we talked about that.
I'm going to suggest one more person that you talk to too, but.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you should talk to Aaliyah.
Yeah, he was fun.
Aaliyah he will give you great stories and he will have you piss in your pants. And then you can ask him to do his psychosocial dance, which is this. He used to dance psychosocial in the office and he would just crank it and start doing it. And I would like to see him do it on camera. But Aaliyah, like a brother to me, love him to death. He will have you pee in your pants if you talk.
Yeah.
I believe Aaliyah has been contacted through, I believe it was Austin Stevens. It could have been.
I can text him. I can send him a message. I talk to him all the time because we still work together. He's an awesome human being too. And Phil Queso. Phil is the last man standing. Phil has been at Roadrunner the longest. Okay. And Phil Queso also loved like a brother. We'll have a lot of great stories. But
what's Aaliyah doing now?
Aaliyah's at Concord. He's pretty much like one of the heads of radio at Concord.
Oh wow! Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's the best. Short thing about Nickelback. So when I was working the long road, I had to go to Vancouver a lot, and I went there like a couple of weeks before the long road came out, and I'm sitting with the band and we're talking about press strategy, and my phone rings, and it was somebody from Spin asking if they could get an advance copy. And I'm like, no. And the woman's like, why can't I get an advance copy? I'm like, you already know what you're going to write. The whole band went insane. That was when they decided they were going to trust me. I told them, I'm not servicing this for reviews. What am I, a masochist? I'm like, people can buy it if they want to review it. I'm like, you'll be on television, you'll do, Q&As, but there won't be any opinions. And that's when we started really getting along.
I like that. That is cool. There's plenty. As I said, like now that I've got the substance down in terms of like the academic side of it, it's time to just like tell fun stories. So
and I want to make sure that like this is really clear. Like I will never have a job that I loved as much as that job. I will never have a group of people that I loved more like family than I did most of the people. I'd say 99% of the people that work at the company and those fucking bands. Like, I consider Rob Flynn my family. I consider Jesse Leach and Adam D my family. You know what I mean? Like I love some of the managers, Kenny and Vaughn, Corey Brennan, as much as he makes me nuts a lot of the times because that's how he gets you to want to just show him how awesome you are. It's a good strategy.
He tortured his sisters.
Exactly. He's a good strategist that way. Like all those, like, Joey Jordison's death, broke my heart in half. And, for everybody from like Karen Dillett to Rich Perkins, Veronica, all those people who worked there were like family. And I will say, James, I learned so much from you. You taught me so much, about how to do press, how to handle these guys, how to get myself in check. Jamie is always like, you give too many fucks. You've got to pull back a little bit and put yourself first. And you like, and I would call you and be like, there were times I call Jamie, be like, Jamie, I'm so mad about this. And you'd be like, listen, here's how and the best advice you ever gave me, your internal campaign is just as important as your external campaign. And I take that with me to this day. So,
and also I gave somebody else like a lesson the other day, a young publicist. And I said, I remember you were at Roadrunner and there was an indie and they were trying to do some TV thing and you were mad about it. And I go, why? You win if they get it. Mm-hmm. This all the credit goes to you. It doesn't matter who the hell you hired.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what they do. This is your department and the credit.
And it took me a while to understand that.
Yeah.
Because I took it so personally.
Well, it was the advantage of me not being a metal fan coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I attribute it all to that.
Yep. And I think that, and I feel like it, like, for me, it's like, it's my biggest hindrance and my biggest help, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I love the people in metal. There's no better people than in this genre. So, you know, and I mean, I want to echo what Amy says, like, the best job I ever had, the most like family. I talk to almost everyone still.
Mm-hmm.
And great memories. And when Peter Steele died, I couldn't even stand up. I had to sit down.
I think you and Jason Pettigrew were the first people I reached out to when he died.
Yeah.
I knew how much you guys loved him.
I spent so much time with him and with that band, and the people that I remain the closest with are Johnny Kelly and Kenny Hickey.
And I also think, Jane, we need to find out how we're all getting Dragon Force Platinum plaques, because I'm pretty sure that
hey, Roadrunner is the only label that gave me plaques. Even Universal, these cheap ass motherfuckers, didn't give me a Godsmack plaque when I got a #1 record there. You know, all my plaques are here.
I worked Bad Wolves and I didn't get a plaque for that platinum single.
I didn't get a fucking plaque for that single, and I was the only publicist at the label. But yeah, I mean, Roadrunner's the only label that ever gave me plaques.
You know what? They used to make us go every year to the Roadrunner retreat. And you know what? On paper, when you think about that, I have to give up my weekend, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, we have to drive back 2 hours. So by the time you get home, it's 5 o'clock, your weekend is completely shot. And I might add that one of the Roadrunner conventions was also my birthday weekend one year. So I had to give up my birthday weekend. And you look at that paper, you're like, how hard? And the Roadrunner conventions were 3 days of meetings. It wasn't just parties. It was 3 days of meetings, and then they would get you drunk. But I look back now and I'm like, oh my God,
I wouldn't do that for anyone else.
What's that?
I wouldn't do that for any other job I ever worked at.
Anybody else, you probably would put a mutiny out for that. And I was always like, oh, the Roadrunner convention, we're really gonna have a lot of fun. And like they put us all together for like 3 days, and we all had a really good time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I wouldn't have done that for anyone else.
Me neither.
And you know, I had the best time. I mean, you know.
It was the best. It really was. It'll never be replicated. And I always say, you know, a lot of people look at it like, how do we break bands like they used to at Roadrunner? Nobody's going to. Not like
I remember.
It's a different time, but not like we did.
Yeah. One Roadrunner convention, I had a typo on Howard Stern, and we had to watch them. It was the Channel 9 show. Howard Stern Channel 9 show. And Gary Delabate called me in the middle of us playing paintball. I'm riddled with bullets.
Typical publicist, right? Always
I had my phone in my pocket. Jonas was like, why do you have your phone in your pocket? I'm like, you people are too competitive. I'm leaving.
Yeah, or they don't understand that. Like, I remember when you said, James, the best thing, publicist, it's just another word for somebody to blame.
True. Oh man, but if you ever need me